When I first opened up intuitively, I was 32 years old. And I was an adult. I was a grown adult. I had absolutely zero familiarity with intuition, how it worked. And one of the first things I did, this was 20 years ago, by the way, one of the first things that I did was I found myself a teacher and a living teacher. And I signed up for psychic classes, intuition classes. And if you're listening to this episode or been following this podcast, you're going to relate to what I say next. I went to the classes, they sat me down, they said, try using these cards, try using this. What does your intuition tell you? But there was no instruction deeper than that. And the worst case that happened was that I sat in the class to learn about how to tap in and just heard a teacher go on and on and on about herself and how special she was. So there are a lot of limitations when it comes to taking courses and classes on intuition. And today I want to touch base on one of what I feel is the biggest missing components to teaching out there when it comes to intuition and how you can tackle that missing component yourself. It's not even something that you have to learn specifically from any one particular person. It's just a concept that once you introduce it into your path of intuitive development, your intuition starts to open up dramatically. So let's get into that today. Not going to waste any time. Let me tell you exactly what it is, and then I'll elaborate on how you can approach it and how you can start to gain momentum with your intuition from it. The number one piece that I feel is missing in a lot of courses that teach intuition is the internal, personal, emotional blocks that people have, the programming that they were given as a kid that gets in the way of their intuition flowing, the limited beliefs that block people from being able to receive the clearest messages. Developing your intuition is okay when you're practicing with cards, practicing with, pendulums, stones, different tools like that. It's okay. And it does get stronger. But it is 100 times faster and stronger for development when you're cleaning up from the inside out. Right? It's one thing to take the outside tools, use them, practice with them. I always encourage that constantly. But until you clean up what's going on inside, it's just not going to open up to its fullest. So you've heard me say this. I get it. And I'm going to say it again. Everyone's intuitive. Everyone has incredibly strong intuition. Everyone has access to their intuitive channel, their intuitive source, where they can tap in and get direction. Is this where I should be headed? Should I be going a different way? Everyone has that. But what we don't yet have a lot of is information out there in the world addressing how big of a component emotional blocks and programming can be to intuition. Now, it literally can be as simple as having this conversation. You and me, we're having this conversation. We're going to chat through this a little bit. You're going to get the end of this podcast session and you're going to be like, all right, I see where she's coming from. I'm going to stay open to that. And then things will present and I will approach them slightly differently. And my intuition is going to open up faster. So that's what these episodes are all about. These sessions, these podcasts, that's what this is all about. And if you're new to the podcast, please click like, follow, whatever the button is to say hello and whatnot, because my goal and my calling really is to raise the vibration, help people tap into their own intuitive source so they have a direct connection to their spirit, to their energetic body, so that they can start to bring into their lives the things that they need and remove from their lives the things that are blocking them and limiting them from having the experiences that they want to have. I'm very passionate about the work, and this is done through intuition. Now, your intuitive channel is super strong, and I want you to think of it as like a hallway, right? There's going to be two components to this hallway. Number one, all of the baggage that you have ever created in your life. And if you could see me, like, I'm smiling because I'm like, oh, baggage. It's such a good word. Like, I don't even have to elaborate on that analogy. Everyone goes, yep, baggage, right? You know what I mean by baggage, that emotional baggage you've collected along the way. You know where that baggage is? It's in the hallway. Your intuitive channel is like a hallway. That is where intuitive messages come down. Picture the most adorable mail carrier at the end of the hallway. That's your guide's, your loved one's source. That mail carrier is carrying a letter, and that letter holds intuitive messages. And that mail carrier is going to walk down the hallway and deliver that message to you and hand it to you. That is, in essence, what your intuitive channel is like. It's like a hallway. And the message comes down the hallway and gets to you from source. And guess what's piled up in that hallway? Your baggage. Everyone's got it. You should see mine. I swear, baggage was great. So it's one thing to say, I'm intuitive, because you are. I have strong intuition. You do. That mail carrier's got that letter. It's accurate. It's strong. It's coming down the hallway. But it's another to ignore the baggage that's blocking the intuition from coming through. And I don't mean ignore like purposely ignore. I mean ignore like I didn't know. And that was where I was at when I first opened up. I honed my intuition for a while with some teachers and things like this. I met my first spiritual guide, Big Dog. In case you read in the book, my book, Cracking Open. Big Dog taught me 98% of what I know intuitively. I learned how things worked with him, how we come down here, how we transition to the other side, how the intuitive channel triggers the other 5 senses. Like, I learned so much with him that I was able to grab all that, collect it all with his instructions and package it up together and bring it out into the world. That's what you see with the Sage Method course that I teach. Now, with that said, he was the one that first introduced this idea to me. And I know there are teachers out there teaching this, right? So in no ways do I want to be saying there's no teachers teaching this. I'm saying, look for the teachers that are teaching this. These are the teachers that really are very, very in tune and have the calling to help others open their intuitive channels. There are some teachers that are very in tune to deliver messages. There are some teachers that are very in tune to teach specific things, but it might not be their calling to help others open their intuitive channel. There's a whole bunch of teachers out there that are lifting up the vibration and have been called on, especially in the last 10 years, to help people really gain access to that intuitive hallway, which is the analogy we created. Clean up the hallway, recognize that the baggage is blocking the mail carrier, and we got to get the baggage out. We got to clean up that hallway. The second analogy piece, same analogy, second component to this analogy. So if we're sticking with the analogy that our intuitive channel is like a hallway, the first piece was that the mail carrier needs to walk down the hallway to give you that intuitive message on that letter. And they're struggling walking down it because it's filled with baggage, luggage, trunks, hat boxes. I'm just trying to be fun. The second component to this analogy is that it is important to continually, on a regular basis, use your intuition, because the lights that are on in that hallway are on a timer. If 24 or 48 hours goes by and you're not remembering that you're a spiritual being or remembering or using your intuition, the lights are set to just shut off. And the carrier is now at the end of the hallway, looking down a dark hallway filled with baggage, going, well, they don't expect me to walk down this, do they? I'm going to twist an ankle. So this analogy works really, really well. And I want you to keep it in mind when you remember the importance of the balance of not only using your intuition every day, practicing, using the cards, the things that most teachers out there are teaching, using the cards, picking out a stone for the day, doing GCP. If you're not familiar with GCP, please find my free course. I've been giving that free course out for like 15 years, and it's just wonderful and helpful to everybody. So I've been giving it out for so many years. And the very first video in that is called GCP. And it is an intent exercise that takes you 30 seconds. and it reminds you that you're a spiritual being. And you know what it does? It keeps the light on in the hallway. Keeps the light on in the hallway every day. So whether you pick a card once a day, do GCP, that I've got, like I said, I've got the training video in that course. Or if you are to work with stones or just try to tap in, what is 10 things I might see today? Any way that you use your intuition, maybe somebody comes up and says, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Maybe you intuitively lean into one thing and then intuitively lean into the other to see which one is calling you more strongly. By consciously using your intuition every day, you're keeping the light on in the hallway, right? Keeping the light on. It's time to make the donuts. That's for my older generation. They'll get that joke. So the other component, though, that I think is really important, and I'm excited to see more people bringing this to the surface, and I hope it continues to rise up to the surface. This is what I've been teaching for 18 years. This is why people are excited about the Sage Method course, because at the end of the 7 weeks of it, they're like, holy crap, this works. It's because it addresses the baggage in the hallway. We have to address the personal programming that we've been given, the triggers, the patterns, the luggage that's in the way, blocking the path of the carrier bringing you the intuitive message. So here is a very important point. So don't forget this point when it comes to balancing the two. We've talked about how important it is to keep using your intuition every day to keep the lights on in the hallway. It's also important to clean up the baggage, right? So that the mail carrier has a clear path to get the message to you. These are the two biggest components, and both are things that you can do on your own. One really, really important thing, though, to note is that not all of the baggage has to get cleaned up before intuition flows. This is a misconception that's out there of like, if I completely declutter my old programming, my old triggers and my old patterns and overcome all of them, then I will be intuitive. Then my intuitive channel will work. And it just doesn't work like that. It doesn't. What works, what opens that up is the movement of that baggage. You remove one bag and the carrier is going to be like, well, this is easier to come through. I'm going to give it a shot. Intuition starts to flow when you are actively cleaning out that hallway and actively keeping the lights on in that hallway. So it's not an end game. You don't have to get everything cleaned up. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to reach a certain point to get your intuitive channel open, flowing, messages coming through. What you need to do is be working toward it. Intuition energetically responds to forward movement. Intuition shuts down when you hold still. It's that simple. When we are, here's an example. When we get consumed into like a human experience, and this not consumed in a bad way, sometimes it's a good one. Maybe our kid is graduating college, right? And we're like focused on getting there. What are we going to bring? What are we going to wear? What's the party? What's going on? All that kind of stuff. We are so consumed in the human experience that we kind of are ignoring that the tunnel's there. And that's fine. That's fine. But it also means that there's no forward movement happening in the tunnel. There's no inward work that we're doing. We're not cleaning any baggage up right now. We're focusing on our kid. We're not keeping the lights on. We're focusing on our kid. We're having fun at the party. There's nothing wrong with this. But when people get a lot of human stuff happening, maybe a big move or work or something is coming down the pike that's very human, and they start to go, I feel like I've lost my intuition, or I'm having a hard time accessing it. It's just because, the lights are out for a day or two. Have your human life. Get back to turning those lights on and cleaning out that baggage. But the biggest part of that message that I really want to sink in, so I'm going to say it again, is we don't have to completely heal something. We don't have to completely release something. We don't have to completely overcome something of our programming or our past. We just have to be moving toward it. So this is not like perfection. This is process. It is not perfection. It is process. One more time with me. It is not perfection. It is process. These are the key components that I think are so important. When we start to realize that our old programming, our old fears, those are the things that are blocking up our intuitive channel. When we start working on kind of chipping away at those at our pace, there's no correct pace. There's no, once you hit this on the level, like at this speed or this time, when we just start working at those at the pace that we can, that's when our intuition is going to come in and say, good to see you're cleaning up this hallway. Thank you for keeping the lights on. Here's a message that's going to help you on your way. It's really quite a beautiful thing if you think about it. Our intuition is incredibly supportive. Incredibly supportive. It's quite beautiful, actually. Our intuition embraces our courage to move forward on our path. Our intuition revels and is thrilled at the idea that we are healing, becoming happier, and growing, and will continue to deliver messages to help us along that way. When we are holding still and we are refusing to change, because we've all done it, we've all been there in that spot, our intuition will pause. Won't shut down, it'll just pause. Intuition responds to high vibration. Intuition responds to forward movement. Intuition responds to the desire and steps toward growth. Because your intuitive channel is based in your spiritual being. Your spiritual being is connected to your higher self. Your higher self wants these positive experiences. Some experiences maybe not so positive, but it wants you to have the experiences that you came down here to have. And there's empowerment in that. So people say to me, okay, well, my house is very cluttered. Like, I've had students come to me and say, I have a hoarding issue, and it's overwhelming. It's going to take me 6 months to clean out my house. I'm going to do it. I've finally committed, but it's going to take me 6 months. And I tell them, your intuition will start the day you start. Your intuition will be more clear the day you start. And wake up in the morning, say hello to your intuition, to your higher self, to your guides, to your loved one, to your spirit team, to whoever your source is from. We've got people on this podcast all over the world, all walks of life. You do you, boo, exactly the way that is beautiful for you. And whoever that is, wake up in the morning and say hello to them. Hello to yourself, to your higher self even. That is turning those lights on, right? And then any step you can take, even a baby one, to do that inner work, that inner healing work, is going to be moving the baggage out of that hallway. And your intuition, seeing the lights on, seeing your effort at moving that baggage and getting rid of it, your intuition is going to make its way down that hallway and give you the messages that you need. This is the natural structure of it, right? If someone was out in the wilderness and needed to find their way home, and they were faced with a dangerous animal that came up to them, in that moment where they were faced with a dangerous animal, the intuition is going to hold still. It's going to let you be in that human experience to deal with exactly what you need to deal with in that moment. But the minute that that's passed, and you take a deep breath, and you release, and you let go of the worry, which probably is going to be hard to do, having the fact that you just faced something scary, but you get back into your space, that's when the lights are going to come back on and say, okay, here's the next step. There's no reason for your intuition to turn on in the middle of an animal attack and be like, hey, I know you're kind of busy getting possibly bit and hurt, but I got a message for you. No. So in the human, it's going to be human. In the intuitive and the spiritual, it's going to be intuitive and spiritual. As often as we can, we keep the lights on, we remove a little bit of baggage, and we move forward. That's how we get the clearest and most accurate intuitive messages. The blockages are the things that we are not willing to push through. The blockages are the things that are instilling emotions and triggers that are based on this linear time, that are based in the human world. Another way to say that is that which you are scared of, that which you are putting blinders on to, not paying attention to, just wanting to hide from. Those are the things that are clogging up that hallway and blocking your intuition. So, little baby steps. That's what I want to leave you with. Little baby steps, right? You don't have to fix it all, but you should clean some of it up. I want to leave you on a really, really positive note, because we should always be left on that. If in the process of doing any sort of inner work, cleaning up the old programming from childhood, or cleaning up, releasing or overcoming or healing triggers from the past, in this process, we sometimes have moments where we can get down on ourselves for having these trauma triggers or having these trauma responses, which are very common. You're not alone with that. I've walked through my own. And we can sometimes be frustrated with ourselves or get down on ourselves, or we can, in the process of processing old processes and programming, we can look back and go, I can't believe I did that. Why did I put up with that for so long? I don't know. Why was I married for 20 years? You can do that. You can find yourself doing that. I want you to hear my words and remind yourself of this as well. What we did to get through is what saved us, what helped us, what we needed. So old programming, at some point, you needed that to be safe. And so we look at that old programming, we look at that trauma, or we look at the resistance to change, maybe that we didn't change, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do that. You know what we did do? We did exactly what we needed to do to take care of ourselves in that moment. And we look at ourselves and we say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the mask when I needed it. Thank you for the skill to walk on eggshells when I needed to. Thank you for the ability to not look at something in the moment because it would have overwhelmed me and it would have been bad. Thank you for all of those moments that I was organically, intuitively connected enough to know what I needed to do when I needed to do it. And today, even though I'm thanking myself for the protective behaviors that I used before, today I don't need them. So I say thank you to everything I did in the past. And today I can now let it go. So there's no self-judgment of the past. There's only the gratitude that we did what we needed to do. And now we are here today. Right? So with that, look at the hallway, turn the lights on every day if you can. Grab a piece of luggage. Some of them are going to be heavier than others. And they're just going to be heavier. But some of them are going to be easy, right? So just pick a little piece of luggage. Just a little one. Little bit of baggage. Pull it out of the hallway. You can do this. And thank yourself for everything that you did to get to where you are today. Because you're perfect and you're wonderful.